Yo, Chris, what up, love? What's that in your hand? It's the S to the Prite can. Understand the cross, Chris, with the crazy craziness of understanding this that you should never miss. So what's your name? Daddy MAC. And what's your drink? SPRITE. Do you remember that?
I do now that you did that.
Crisscross doing the Sprite.
I remember
just
crisscross.
Popped into my head.
I see you start laughing as their music's playing, and I'm thinking, what is so funny? It could be so many different things. Oh, my goodness.
And my friend, my best friend growing up, his name was Chris, and I used to do that to him all the time, and he'd do it back. We'd do that commercial to each other all the time, just goofing off. And Tremendous. It just popped into my head. So anyway, hello, everybody. Welcome to the Homewrecker podcast. I am the Golden Greek, Alex Arion, joined as always by my beautiful, lovely, gorgeous wife, the lovely Monique.
Hello. You got hit with some nostalgia there.
Yeah, it just hit me, and I was like, I'm just going to go with this.
It's our show. We can do whatever we want.
Hell with it.
Whatever strikes our fancy.
Yeah, so before we start talking, is there anything you want to talk about, plug, get out of the way?
Yeah, I do want to say for anyone listening, and if you want to give me some information or feedback, we bought a mill to mill our own flour because it has more nutrition when you do it that way. And we're trying out different wheat berries, but if anyone mills their own flour, let me know what wheat berries you use. We obviously use organic, but if you have anything good, let us know. And I want to throw out there, if you're interested in any type of stress management, the world is so stressful lately. Everything's so expensive. We all have to work so hard for so little. It is stressful. I am a certified stress management consultant and a certified hypnotherapist. So if you are interested in relieving your stress or trying to find out more about what you need in life or where to go next, you know the answer. You just got to tap into it. I can help with that. Go to innerstandingshypnosis.com. And if you're not ready for a one-on-one appointment, you can check out one of my digital downloads. And if you're interested in a tarot reading or any organite, go to tarotbymonique.com, see what's there, what strikes your fancy, and place an order if you please.
There you go.
Yeah. How about you? What about you? Anything new, interesting, fun?
Yeah. Well, I got to say, I was listening to a podcast just the other day. It was Brett Michaels was on the Eddie Trunk podcast. Eddie Trunk's like a radio host, whatever. I think he's got a show on Sirius XM. Anyway, they were talking about just like, when is Poison going to go out and tour again and all this other stuff. And he was saying like, oh, I don't, whatever. Like, I'd like to go out soon or whatever. And he was saying like 2026 is probably looking like that's going to be the time, because it's the 40-year anniversary of when they released Look What the Cat Dragged In, their first. Yeah, I know. Isn't that crazy? And I know, 40 years. I'm just like, what?
I remember when that album came out.
So do I. Yeah, crazy. And so I was like, okay, that's cool. And then Ricky Rocket, who's the drummer of Poison, I guess I saw this on like a music website that I go to every now and again just to get like music news and stuff. And he put something on his Facebook or something, or social media or whatever, saying that he keeps getting asked, why isn't Poison touring in 2025? And he said the simple answer, because Brett doesn't want to.
Ouch.
Yeah. Which they've always, and I guess those two are tight because they've been best friends since like junior high or whatever. So, and I've heard him on like interviews and stuff, and they are who they are. Mm-hmm. Whatever. They're tight, I guess. I think they're tight still, but whatever. So
maybe not after that interview.
Well, no, because Brett is always the positive one. He's always the baby face for you wrestling fans out there. He's always the good guy and everything. And it like some people say that that's just an image that he puts up or whatever. But I've heard so many stories about the guy from different people. It seems like he's genuine for the most part. I don't know. It could just be a big work, and he could be a great worker if that's the case. But anyway, so the comments, I guess, on this Ricky Rocket social media post were just people saying, dump him, just fire him. Why don't you guys just fire Brett and go out and tour on your own and, record new music and this and that, all this other shit. And so I'm just like, that would never work. And these people that are putting all this stuff in the comments failed to realize that they did. The three members of Poison, excuse me, that are not Bret Michaels, CeCe DeVille, Ricky Rocket, and Bobby Dahl, they have gone out and toured and played some shows with a different singer. And I don't know the guy's name. I forget who it was. But they went out. They didn't call themselves Poison, obviously, but they called themselves the Special Guests. And they didn't draw at all. Like, nobody cared. Because it's not Poison. They
should be Poison minus Bret Michaels. That's how they need to advertise themselves.
Well, they advertise themselves as like the special guests with their names, which Poison fans know who they are, but it didn't matter. Like nobody cared because it's not the same thing.
No.
Just like when Bret Michaels goes out, it's not the same thing. Like I won't go see a Bret Michaels show, but I'll go see Poison.
We did see Poison. It was fantastic.
It was awesome. They're fantastic.
They were great.
They're one of the few bands, and it's funny because actually Ricky Rackman, you remember the Headbangers Ball on MTV?
I do.
He actually, like recently I saw, came out and said that like it's not the type of music he likes. He's not into it at all, but he's seen them live several times, and he said no matter what you say, whether you like them or not, like their music or not, the one band that always has brought it throughout the years, never does backing vocals, never plays to a backing tape. They play all their music live. They sing everything. He said it's Poison. Because they get a lot of hate, but they don't deserve it. They bust their ass, and they put on a great show every time. And he said he's not even really a fan, but he said he has to give them credit no matter what. And he says that they're like the unsung heroes of rock and roll. I couldn't agree more. I've loved Poison ever since I first saw them way back when. I've always been a huge diehard fan, and I hated it. Like whenever they changed, band members and stuff like that. Like, did you know that CeCe was not the original guitarist?
Yes.
It was a guy, Matt Smith, but nobody knows that really
because they took off after CeCe
they took
was
off
in the
after
band.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They took off after CeCe joined the band, and so it's like, I don't know. I was thinking about it. Like, when has it worked when you've taken, like, for example, a lead singer? Because we know it has worked. Because every band, the dynamics are different. There you go. But it was Bon Scott was the original singer, right? But he died.
Yeah.
It wasn't like he got replaced. Well, I mean, he got
It's not like he can come back.
Somebody stepped into the role because he died. It wasn't because he left or was fired or something. So that worked. But can you think of another time when like the singer has left a band and the band carries on and they're like either just as good or bigger?
Journey, but I feel like it's been so divided. Okay, a few are coming to mind. We can talk about Journey, Van Halen.
Van Halen.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. What a divide. You want to talk Republicans, Democrats? What's worse is those who are for David Lee Roth and those for Sammy Hagar. You're either David Lee Roth or Sammy Hagar. I mean, remember the movie Airheads with Brendan Fraser, Steve Buscemi, and Adam Sandler? I freaking love that movie. I loved it when it first came out. And there's a question. There's a studio exec who they're trying to make sure isn't a cop, and they're like, "Who'd you pick in the split? Hagar or Roth?" And he's like, "Hagar. He's a cop." And
I just between you and I, if I had to pick one between the two. Yeah, I know. You make that sound because you know what I'm going to say.
I do.
I say Hagar.
No.
For me, it's Hagar. But
that's the wrong answer.
No, it's not, because Hagar's still out there singing the songs. Yeah? They're still touring.
Okay.
But that's not why. But the reason for me is because I really got into Van Halen with the 5150 album, which is the first album he did. I liked them before. Like, I liked Jump. That was the first like big Van Halen song that I heard. Because remember, they started as a band before I was even born. So the first song that I heard, the big radio hit, was Jump for me. And that was David Lee Roth. And I thought they were awesome because I remember seeing the music video and stuff like that. Yeah. But then when Hagar joined, I remember when David Lee Roth was fired or left or however that went down. And I remember Sammy Hagar being the new singer. And I remember seeing it on MTV News. You remember they do the MTV News thing?
Yes.
And I remember seeing it and being like, who's Sammy Hagar? Like, I had no idea that this guy had been touring already for like a decade before with the band Montrose, and then he was like he did I Can't Drive 55, and I think that was in what was that? It was in a movie or something.
I will give it like that's not a bad song.
Yeah,
it gets quoted a lot, especially when driving on the highway.
Yeah, and then he did the song in Over the Top, the Sylvester Stallone movie. So he had a video for that. So I was like, that's going to be the singer of Van Halen. It just doesn't. It seems weird. But then when the album came out, I remember my friend Chris, the one I was talking about before. He bought it because he was a big Van Halen fan, and he bought it, and that's the first time I listened to it. I was like, this is actually really good. I like this. So ever since then, I've liked Sammy. I like Sammy. I prefer those albums to the earlier stuff. I like the early stuff, but if I had to pick one, had to pick, I'd pick Sammy. But that's me.
And
that's such
opinion.
a divide. You're right.
It's
such a divide
because I love David Lee Roth, and I am such a loyal person to a fault, and that includes music. And so especially with that, it's like so many of my early memories with Van Halen, it was David Lee Roth, the fun videos, the fun music, and the movie, if I remember correctly, and I could just be totally misremembering it, but One Crazy Summer with John Cusack, where like he likes to draw, and then there are these animations, and he's in like a restaurant or diner, and he's like one of the only people in it, and he's drawing, and they start doing like Van Halen and like David Lee Roth, and it was just like a cool thing. So even as a kid, I just really enjoy those memories. And then when Van Halen had Sammy Hagar come in, I just didn't feel it as much. It wasn't the same to me. And then when Right Now came out, that just did them in, because that song got so overplayed. It was in like Pepsi commercials, and I hated that song.
Did
to
them,
this
did
day,
them in for
I
who?
don't.
For you mean?
For me, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Because I hate that song with a burning passion. And I'm like that. If certain songs, they get overplayed, I can't do it. I just have no use for it. So for that, now we've listened to Van Halen albums with Sammy Hagar, and there are some pretty decent songs. I'll give it that. But ultimately, I am a David Lee Roth kind of gal.
All right.
That's all. But again, what a band that brings a divide.
Yeah, and then I mean after Sammy left in, what was it, 95, 96, when Sammy left, they got Gary Sharon from Extreme. I've never listened to any of those songs. I don't know any of those songs. I think I own the album, but I never listened to it because I heard it was terrible. I bought it, and then I started hearing it's horrible. I didn't bother listening to it. I was like, oh, okay. And I didn't. I still have not heard any of those songs. Wow. But yeah.
And I wanted. Oh, are we done with Van Halen? Because I want to jump to Journey.
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
Okay.
We're just talk about whatever. I know. It's fine.
Your article just sprouted. We're getting into a conversation now.
Okay.
Journey. When I remember when the singer, it was like, some guy from the Philippines who's the singer is now the singer of Journey because Steve Perry left. And
Perry was not the original singer, correct?
I don't remember, but he was the one who was singing when all the hits came out. So again, I don't remember, but if he was not, they got really well known when he was singing.
Okay.
He's got that voice.
Right. Yeah.
But the new singer can hit those notes and has a similar voice. So if you are, and again, I feel like there's a divide, because when that happened, a lot of people are like, seriously? Really?
I don't remember. I've never been a big Journey fan, so I never really cared. But
then they started like playing, and people I believe they still sell out concerts because he is apparently a really good singer. He can hit all the notes. He sounds pretty similar, and it makes you think, if you're a band and you have a singer and your singer dies or leaves, do you just kind of start over and try something fresh with somebody new? Or do you get somebody who can sound just like that person?
Right. Like, I don't know. Like, what do you do? Oh, go ahead. You were going to say something.
No, well, I was going to say No Doubt. I love No Doubt.
Yeah.
And I love Gwen Stefani's songs. I love that music. And I've listened to it since I was, a teenager. And
when did they hit it big?
I want to say it was around like 94, 95.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, because Clueless, Just a Girl, that's really kind of what elevated that band. And
jeez, it's been that long, huh?
Yeah. And so Gwen Stefani did her own thing where, again, especially when you have a female front woman, she really took a hold of that, and she started a fashion line. She did solo albums, and she's really made a household name for herself. But while she was doing all that, there was the rest of her band. And I remember I want to say around 2010s, maybe a few years later, a few years earlier, I can't remember, I heard No Doubt was getting a singer, and it was like the singer of AFI, Davey Havoc. And I thought,
so a girl?
No, a guy. And I was like, whoa.
Davey could be a girl name too. That's why I'm not sure.
They got
I don't know AFI. I don't think I've heard their music.
And they got a dude to be the singer.
How does that work?
Well, right. So I remember thinking, I got pissed. I thought.
Now, had you been listening to No Doubt all along?
Yes.
Or so it was the band with Gwen Stefani as the singer that you liked.
Yep.
When she did her solo stuff, did you follow her solo stuff as much?
Yep.
Okay. Right.
I really liked her solo stuff. Love Angel Music Baby. That was a fun, great album. And it's so fun to sing. And I thought, some dude's going to sing Just a Girl? Come on. You have Gwen Stefani. I'm just a girl. And you're going to have some dude say that? Oh, hell no.
So did they tour with this guy? Did they record with this guy?
So what I had heard was they were playing shows with him.
Okay.
And again, I'm thinking, how can you do that?
I would think that they must have not played that song in the set,
if you listen to the No Doubt albums, it's really from a girl's point of view. Okay. You know, like, don't speak. I
don't listen to No Doubt, so I don't know.
I get that. But I'm just saying, it's really hard for a guy. And I remember, like, getting pissed because I thought, how insulting is it? Because for me, when Just a Girl came out, that was like an anthem for so many like girls and teenagers and young women, because we grow up being told, well, you're just a girl. And no, you can't do that. You're just a girl. And, you know, watch what you wear because you don't want to ask for trouble. I mean, this is a whole other topic, but when I was growing up, if a woman was raped, it wasn't, you know.
Whoa, we're going to rape now?
No, I'm just saying, it was, what were you wearing? Insinuating that the victim caused it. And that's the kind of crap that so many women had to put up with. And that song kind of called out all the BS. And it became like this fun anthem. And again, a lot of her songs, she talks about a relationship. So to have some dude come in and do that, I thought, how is that going to work? It's kind of insulting. And I love Gwen Stefani's voice. So you're just going to mess up the song. Like, don't even bother. What had happened was No Doubt formed a new band called, was it like Dream Car or something? I don't remember. With that singer. And they did all their own songs. But again, kind of like with Poison, it's the band with a different singer. You have No Doubt.
But it's a different name.
Yes.
So they weren't touring or recording under the name No Doubt. So it's not the same band.
I think they played some shows
as No Doubt with a different singer. Okay.
And then like when Just a Girl came on in a couple of their songs, they had like the audience sing it or something.
So they still played those songs?
Yeah.
Wow, I'm surprised they wouldn't just not play those songs.
And they had like, if I'm remembering correctly, this was a long time ago. But yeah, so it's that thing where they didn't get as popular with a new name because it's literally No Doubt minus Gwen Stefani and some other singer from another band.
Okay. Well, what about like Velvet Revolver? They got pretty big, and that was like Slash and the singer from Scott Weiland from Stone Temple Pilots. And so, I mean,
and to me, that's different because remember Temple of the Dog when you had
Chris Cornell
and Eddie Vedder. When you have collaborations like that, especially with like the front man, right?
Okay.
it's one of those things where it's different, I think.
But Velvet Revolver was like 3 members of Guns N' Roses and then Scott Weiland. So how's that different?
I think because you have, one, the household name of Scott Weiland with the Stone Temple Pilots.
Yeah.
And I think because they were, the way that they branded themselves, the way they were marketed, they got a hit out. A lot of it, too, is who's working for you and who's putting your name out, who is, helping you get a number 1 hit so you can be a household name. Now, when you have notoriety already.
Well, it's obviously easier, but yeah, okay.
Like, most people don't know AFI. Most people have heard of No Doubt. Yeah. Not everyone has heard of AFI.
Okay.
So when you have 2 bands that have been on MTV as like a staple pretty much.
Well, and we're talking about years ago though, because I don't think MTV, is it even still around?
Remember when it was like, when did MTV stop playing music? It used to be music videos.
Yeah, I don't know.
So 80s and 90s.
It was like so like, when was it? Like in the late 90s that they basically kind of wound down and stopped doing music videos, or did them like for like an hour a day or something ridiculous.
I want to say it was like the mid 90s they started doing like The Real World, and that was when they really.
Okay, so once those shows started taking over, that's when okay.
But
before that, it was like all music videos, and it was like call-in request shows for music videos and all that kind of stuff.
And I will say, when I was working in veterinary medicine and working in the ER, I had a shift where I usually got home anywhere between 1 and 3 a.m., depending on the night. Yeah. And I put on MTV, and it wasn't like Headbangers Ball, but it was a show like that where they'd play kind of punk and metal and rock.
Wasn't it like 120 minutes or something like that?
But it wasn't that either.
With Matt Pinfield? No,
because it was after that. But it was a show like that, and that's how I discovered the band El Pus, who is like this band from Georgia, and they're like rap and punk rock, and I freaking love them. I know you've listened and you don't care for them. I love them. And then I got to see them when they played at Hampton, open for Real Big Fish. And I was so excited. I'm like, this band is awesome.
All right.
They have since disbanded. But if you're into like punk, rock, rap, check out El Pus. ELPUS. And I met them, and they're really cool guys. They tried to hire me to go work for them for PR.
Okay. Well, all right then.
Fun times.
Cool.
Well, the manager did. I think he was just trying to hook up with me.
Definitely the kind of story I want to hear.
I declined his advances.
Jeez. So, okay. So now I'm like completely
okay.
off
So
track.
Going back, Velvet Revolver, these bands, when you try to replace the lead singer, how does that work?
Well, like look at Skid Row.
Oh my gosh.
How many singers have they gone through since Sebastian Bach left in 95 or 96?
And to me,
it's ridiculous.
Just like No Doubt is not No Doubt unless Gwen Stefani is singing. Like to me, like, and this is so wrong, I know, but No Doubt is really mostly Gwen Stefani. Even though like the rest of the band is there, Skid Row is Sebastian Bach. Because you can see Sebastian Bach solo and having totally different people as his band. We did.
And it
was fantastic.
It was awesome.
It was
great. Yeah, he sings.
Oh my goodness.
He definitely doesn't phone it in. He sings, and he sings great.
Yes,
well, I don't know if he still does, but he did when we saw him. That was what?
Some years back.
A couple years ago, yeah, and he was awesome. Yeah, we went with Sean Gorman.
We did.
Yeah.
That was fun.
It was fun. Yeah, and I don't know, like Skid Row, I'm not exaggerating. I should look this up. I think they've had like 8 or 9 singers since him.
Wow.
And there's always people saying, "Oh, they got to get back together, and they do not like him. They just do not like him for whatever reason. And I always see people saying, "Well, if they've gone through that many singers, maybe he's the one that's not the problem. Maybe it's them." Which, I mean, you could argue that, I guess, if you think about it. Like, why can't they hang on to a singer? What's the deal there?
Is it that they can't hang on to a singer, or they're trying to find the right person that people want to come see?
I mean, geez, I don't know, because they've had a bunch of people that have been fronting that band. Have you ever heard of the band Hailstorm?
Yep.
Lizzie Hale?
Yep.
I've never heard the music, but I've heard the name. I guess she just did a few shows with them. Like, they were on tour and she did like 3 or 4 shows where she filled in as a singer for them because their singer just quit.
Oh, wow.
This other guy who he won like the American Idol or something in Europe, and that was their singer, and he just left and quit. It's like what's going on with these guys? Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, like so that's. I mean, I feel like bands always change members.
They do.
Like you lose a drummer, a bassist, guitarist, whatever, and they typically tend to go on just fine. I mean, look at Metallica. They've had 3 bass players now.
Yeah.
The first, Cliff Burton died in '86 in a bus accident, so it's not like they replaced him because they wanted to get rid of him or anything. But then Jason Newsted comes in, and he was fucking awesome.
Yes,
he was so awesome.
Jason Newsted. I thought he was great.
Oh, fantastic! And like he was like the fan guy. He was the one always talking to the fans. He was like the fan friendly guy. And he was always just Mr. fucking metal. I'm gonna swear a lot in this episode.
Okay.
Whatever.
I've been trying to curb it, so
F it. But he was like just the man, headbanging all the time. Like he was just awesome. Newsted was like he was metal. He was Metallica.
Yeah.
And then I remember when he left, how upset I was. I was like, he's what?
Yeah.
Newsted left?
Yes.
What? And he left? Like they didn't fire him. He just left.
Yes.
And I remember, like what? And I remember when the Some Kind of Monster movie came out and watching it and him talking about why he left and everything and why he's like, we're Metallica. We're the 4 baddest motherfuckers in metal, or I'm paraphrasing, but something along those lines. And he's like, we can't just sit down and talk. We have to get a therapist.
Oh my gosh.
And I remember just being like, yeah, what the fuck? Like, yeah,
That's
he's
not
right.
metal.
Yeah, Newsted's right.
But we watched that together.
Yes.
And I remember and then this therapist is basically trying to make himself a band member.
Yeah, this guy.
Like he's trying to Yoko his way in. And I just remember watching that thinking, oh my goodness, I wish I could make a time machine and go back and be their therapist, because I would just hypnotize them and help them all with the root of their issues independently so they could just get along. It would be so much better and easier. And then Jason Newsted could have stayed in the band. Damn it.
He's awesome. I love Newsted.
Oh yeah.
But I remember when that came out, I think it was like 2003. Yeah, it must have been 2003 because I think it came out the same time that Saint Anger did. And I remember just being like, aside from hating the drums of Saint Anger, just be like, what the fuck is this? And it's not Newsted. Like, what's going on? And I remember watching the movie and just being like, what? Like, what is this shit? I don't think I got through the movie the first time I watched it because I was just kind of like, these guys are in therapy. Like, what is this? What is this garbage? Like, what is going on? Now, watching it again later, when you and I watched it again many years later, I was like, okay, I get it now. It makes sense. But it's also because I'm looking at it through the eyes of somebody who's, 10, 15 years older. And now I get it. I've had life experience. Now I see, okay, yeah, this is kind of the stuff that happens or whatever. But Newsted still, at the time, he was just, I remember just being like, what the hell happened to Metallica?
But the way that they treat
happened?
him, and as you watch it, you realize, okay, well, James Hetfield obviously has abandonment issues.
Yeah, I mean, well, at the time, I'm sure this is 20 plus years ago now.
But like you see, like how they all treated him, and it was like so sad because it's like he seems like such a nice guy, and he's really good. He's really good. Yeah. And was it Injustice for All where they actually had the bass down to barely anything?
You could barely hear the bass on
so
that.
they re-released it. Or did somebody else do that?
No, that you're talking about the one I got?
Yeah.
Yeah, somebody had remixed and put bass in, and they made their own mix. And I think, what was it called? Injustice for Jason is what they called it.
It was
better. They basically just, I actually prefer the original better, only because that's the version I've heard a million times.
I get it, but I
that's
enjoyed
the one
it.
And I mean, Injustice for All is the album that I really discovered Metallica.
Me too.
So for me, like that sound was just, I fell in love with that sound, not knowing that there's barely any bass. You can't hear the bass. Like I didn't realize that at the time. Know. But that's the sound I fell in love with. So I'll put on Injustice for Jason once in a while, and it kicks. It's awesome.
Yeah.
But I still prefer the original version.
And I get that. I'm saying because you can actually, oh, wow. And part of me feels like a little bit of like some justice
Justice for Jason. Yeah.
Like finally, like somebody's, doing something. Not like he needs anyone to stand up for him in any way, shape, or form, but it's just so cool to see the impact because, we talk about like celebrities and stuff and they get paid to say things and, especially politics and marketing and whatnot. But at the end of the day, if you really like music, you really like a band, like there's just music. And have you ever heard a song, and I think we've talked about this before, where it's almost like a time machine? You hear a song and you can go back to a specific moment in time, be it good or bad, and feel that exact same feeling.
That's what music is for a lot of people, I think. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so it's like you can't help but appreciate the people who made that happen.
Sure. I mean, that's how I am.
Yeah.
But yeah. Mm-hmm. But I mean, and sticking with Metallica, now the bassist they have now, Robert Trujillo, he's been there the longest of any of their bass players. Like he's been there almost double the amount of time Newstead was, which is crazy when you think about it. But he's been there since 2003. So he's been with them over 20 years now.
They're still putting out new albums.
Yeah. And he's great. He's awesome too.
Absolutely.
And by all accounts, he's like one of the nicest guys too. So their trend of awesome, cool bass players who are also awesome, cool people continues, which is nice.
It is.
But yeah, Metallica's still kicking it. They just were up here recently. And,
we couldn't go.
They're touring now. Right now, they're still touring. So just pretty cool. But yeah.
We had a chance to go, but we weren't able to because of other stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Things
That's
happen.
Okay.
It's all good.
Not meant to be. Faith No More, because I know that's a band that I would love for us to see together. But so like Mike Patton.
Yes.
I cannot imagine Faith No More without Mike Patton singing.
But the first time I ever heard Faith No More was with Chuck Mosley.
Who's
their original.
Right.
He's their he was the well. He wasn't actually the Courtney Love was in Faith No More for a show or two, I'm trying to remember the name of the original guy. I don't know. I almost feel like, should we be talking about guys that were not on any of the albums or anything?
I don't know. Because when I heard Faith No More, Mike Patton was singing. And he's got such an incredible voice.
So you probably heard The Real Thing is when you first heard them, I presume.
Yeah, Epic.
Epic, right?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Well, We Care a Lot's the first song I heard. And my friend Chris, who's going to come up a lot in the show, he got We Care a Lot. He got the first, at the time it was a cassette. And we listened to that thing over and over like so many times. And I thought it was awesome. Like I love Faith No More because it was so different. It was just different than anything else that was on MTV or whatever at the time. And it was awesome. And that was Chuck Mosley. And then they did Introduce Yourself. The next album came out after that. And again with Chuck Mosley. And then when The Real Thing came out and it was a different singer, I was like, am I going to like this? And I saw the video for Epic and I was like, wow, this is actually really cool. Because it was just a crazy video. The visuals were nuts. And Mike Patton was just very charismatic, jumping around and doing all the kind of stuff that he was doing, and he did, like you said, he had like that unique voice,
and a range, and he can do different sounds. It was really cool.
You didn't really notice that too much on The Real Thing, but in the subsequent releases, Angel Dust, and then on King for a Day, and then Album of the Year, like he's just got such a range, and he's awesome. He's a phenomenal singer. Yeah,
for vocalist, he's right up there with like Freddie Mercury.
Oh,
for vocalist, he's
fantastic. Freaking awesome.
Yeah,
he does so many.
But now, awesome. Like with the name Faith No More has made, if Faith No More was like, we're touring minus Mike Patton, we're gonna have somebody else, like, would you be as interested?
No, I wouldn't care.
Yeah,
I mean, I would have seen them with Chuck Mosley, because that's when I first heard them. But I really fell in love with the band, after Patton showed up. Like The Real Thing, to me, I don't think it's their best album. It's probably my favorite album because that's the one I listened to so much when I was a kid. And I listened to that so much. And I was listening to it before, because I think the first single off of that was From Out of Nowhere. I'm pretty sure that was the first single. And I got that when it first came out. So I got it before Epic was a radio hit and everything. So I was listening to it, the cassette tape. I remember it was like a blue cassette tape. Remember how cassettes would come out and they were always that like that grayish black color? And this one was blue. And I thought that was cool. The fact that because that was the first time I'd seen something like that. I'm sure it had been done before, but that was the first time I'd seen it. And so I remember just listening to that over and over and over and just thinking, this is so awesome. This is so cool. And I loved that whole album. A lot of people say Angel Dust is better because it's a lot more varied and different. But I enjoyed the real thing. But anyway, yeah, Patton's awesome. Yeah. I couldn't imagine seeing them without Mike Patton.
Mm-hmm. And I'm just like, there are so many bands that when you take out the singer, because that's who you hear. Yeah, you hear the guitar, you hear the bass, you hear the drums, but it's the singer's voice that really stands out.
It's the singer's voice. That's why they call him the front man, right? Like that's the guy who I don't know or girl, right? I don't know how it is now, but I mean, especially like in the era of the music video and stuff with rock bands, where you'd see like the singer running around on the stage or whatever, because a lot of music videos would show the guys in concert or show them, running around on stage without a crowd, but just that would be the music video or whatever. Like that's who you recognized. I mean, you'd recognize the other band members too, but that's the one who's running around doing all the jump and all the cool stuff and singing. He's got the most face time because he's the singer. So that's who is going to be getting the majority of the face time, right?
When I used to sing in bands, that's like, I would like jump around. I would like jump on the amps and jump off the amps. And I remember like I had to be in shape because if you're running around and jumping and singing, that's really hard. So if you listen to bands that play live and the singer's running around, if they sound out of breath, they're not getting every word. It's because one, they're really singing. And two, because all that movement gets you out of breath. And then some people do it well because they're just very in shape. They have good cardio. I remember I used to work out and I would sing while working out. And that would gauge, how in shape am I that I can sing while working out? How, like, at what point am I, trying to get extra breaths in? So,
interesting.
Yeah, I'm weird. I also, when I started wrestling, would work out in high heels just as a challenge to see like if I had to move around in high heels. I know I'm weird, but this is how I prepare myself for things. But yeah, definitely. And it's fun because when you're a singer and you don't have to carry anything other than the microphone, at least to me, you have freedom to move around and do things, jump into the crowd, get people going, because that's kind of your job too. You want to like get people into it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like a drummer is stuck behind a drum kit unless you're Tommy Lee and they, elevate you and go up into the crowd and on platforms and whatever. But like the guitarist, bassist, you're carrying around this
plugged into a cord.
Well, yeah, but not anymore.
Well,
not anymore.
When I was growing
they're all
up.
cordless now. Yeah. They're all wireless now.
Back in our day,
there
used to be cords. You had to plug the guitars and bass into an amplifier.
Yes. But yeah, I mean, the front man, that's the guy. And I don't know how many bands, especially like, we're going to talk about 80s bands a lot because that's when we grew up and that's like the kind of music that I still listen to all the time. But like Warrant, you remember Warrant? Cherry Pie, Heaven, Down Boys. Yes. Like when Janie Lane left, Warrant's awesome.
Yeah.
When Janie Lane left, Warrant with Janie Lane is awesome. They're still touring. Mm-hmm. They've got this other dude who sings. It's not the same thing. Mm-hmm. I mean, sorry. It's not, to me, it's not good. I don't enjoy it. I've tried giving it a chance because I like the band, but it's just not the same thing. It just doesn't do it. It's like, no, this isn't the same thing. It doesn't work.
Doesn't work. No discount.
No discount. Yeah, it just doesn't work. But Janie Lane was awesome. He was awesome. And he was like the primary songwriter of the band too, from what I know. He wrote most of the lyrics and most of the music and stuff like that. So it's just, I don't know. It's the front man. I don't know. Yeah. Like Great White. Remember Great White?
Yes.
Like their singer, Jack Russell, just recently passed away.
Yeah, that's right. I heard that.
So like Great White still toured without him. Like he would tour and do Great White songs with whoever was playing with him in his band. But if you went to go see Great White without Jack Russell, is it the same thing? I don't know. I was never a big Great White fan, but
wasn't Great White the band that had
station,
a fire?
Yeah,
the station nightclub, and there was
Rhode
a
Island.
fire and people died. And I'm trying to think. I think I was living in Rhode Island at the time. I was living in Providence.
Was that in like 2001 or 2002? Yeah,
it was like
crazy.
Maybe 2002.
I'm sorry. It was early 2000s, I believe. Yeah,
because I was living in Providence
really
at the time. And I just remember thinking, like, I don't even know where that is. And I live in Providence. Like, I'm in Rhode Island and I have no idea. And then I'm like, Great White, they're still playing shows.
Yeah.
And I was like, good for them. Oh, wait, no.
Yeah, no, not good.
No.
Not good. Yeah, that was a sad story.
Yeah, that was awful.
Then you have, like right now, we were talking about Metallica before.
Mm-hmm.
Out touring with Metallica now on opening up for them is Pantera. Or the band, they're calling themselves Pantera.
There we go.
But there's one like Pantera. Like I saw them live in '92. They opened up for Skid Row when Skid Row still had Sebastian Bach. I saw them live, and that was the first time I'd ever seen Pantera. Never heard of them before. I only knew that they were. The only reason I'd heard of them is because it said on the ticket for Skid Row with special guest Pantera, and I'm like, who the hell is Pantera? And I never bought back then. I didn't have internet. This was '92. I didn't have internet. I wasn't really reading any of the rock magazines or anything like this. I didn't know who Pantera was. But got there early, went with my friend Chris. Again, we got dropped off. My dad dropped us off in Worcester at the was it the auditorium? It wasn't the Palladium. No, it was the
Worcester Auditorium.
The Odd. I think it was called the Odd. The Auditorium or something. It wasn't the Centrum. It was the Odd. It was the smaller building. And I think Sean Gorman said he was at that show too. I'm pretty sure he was there.
Sean Gorman is awesome. He's been on our show many times
Multiple
before.
times.
If you haven't heard those shows, please go check him out because is
Sean's
phenomenal.
The man. Love Sean.
We love him.
So, that's the first time I saw Pantera, and they were just amazing. And after seeing them live, and Vulgar Display of Power had just come out, and after seeing them, and after that show, I went and I bought Cowboys from Hell, and I bought Vulgar Display of Power, and I was just like mind blown. Like, whoa, this is awesome. Well, they're touring now. Dimebag Darrell, Diamond Darrell, was the guitarist, and the drummer was Vinnie Paul, the Abbott brothers. They were brothers. And Diamond Darrell was shot and killed in 2004 after Pantera had broken up, because they had broken up. Diamond Darrell was shot on stage. Are you saying
Diamond Darrell?
I knew when I first knew him, he was Diamond Darrell.
Okay.
But then he changed it to Dimebag Darrell. But it's named Darrell Abbott. That was his name.
I wasn't sure if you were doing that one just because of any censorship. So.
Oh no.
Okay.
I still called him Diamond.
Okay.
I still do, even though he hadn't been that since probably 92 or 93. But the first time I saw them, I was like, oh my God, these guys are insane. They're crazy. They're awesome. Well, he died in 2004 after Pantera had broken up. He and his brother started another band called Damage Plan, and they were out on tour, and I think it was in Ohio or something. Somebody just went into the show as the show was starting and just shot him and shot a bunch of other people and killed them. And I remember getting that text message. That was right around the time I'd first gotten a cell phone, and I got a text message from Brutal Bob Evans.
Wow.
A friend of mine from wrestling, back in my wrestling days, telling me, hey, did you hear about your boy Dimebag? And I was like, what? What are you talking about? Like, my boy, what are you talking about? Like, I had no clue what he was talking about. And I was at work, so I couldn't call him, but I just texted back, no, what? He's like, oh, he got shot and killed last night. I thought you knew. I'm sorry to hear about that. I was like, what? And I remember going to a buddy of mine at my job that I was working at and just be like, Scott, did you hear about Diamond Darrell? Because I was still calling him Diamond Darrell. I always was. And he's like, no, what happened? I said, my friend said this. And then he's like, what? Because he was a huge Pantera fan too. So we went to a computer because we worked at a school together.
Yep. This was before you could look this stuff up on your phones.
Correct. So we went to a computer and we got on a computer and sure as shit, that we looked it up and we saw it. And we were like, oh my God, what?
It's weird because it doesn't feel like it was that long ago, and it was.
It's crazy.
Because I remember when that happened, and a lot of my friends, like I have friends who are like really into Pantera. And it was just like, how does that happen?
Yeah.
And especially because being friends with so many people in bands, and you think anyone can just like walk up and shoot you, and like why would you want to shoot them? And obviously like people have issues, but it was horrible, and it just again elevated security at shows. I mean,
oh yeah. I mean, like I just heard actually her very first podcast interview. Rita Haney, who was Diamond's or Dimebag, what it was Daryl's. It wasn't his wife; it was his girlfriend. But they'd been together for so long that they may as well have been married. She did her very first podcast interview, and she talked about like how when she got the news and what happened. And she was saying that this guy, the guy that did the killing, she wouldn't say his name. I forget his name, but I won't say it either. Why give those people any kind of notoriety? He apparently was an ex-military guy who got kicked out of the military because he had psychological issues. And while he was in the military, apparently had been telling a therapist there, because I guess they had him like on psychological evaluation several times or whatever, had told them that he was planning on killing the guys from Pantera because he was saying that they had stolen his music or something. Something weird. Mm-hmm. Right. The guy obviously had issues. Yeah. And so she was saying that she when she found that out, she was very upset because it's like they couldn't have given us a heads up that this guy's been discharged and he made threats and said that he had thoughts about killing the band.
And usually anytime you say that you want to do something like that, either to yourself or to others, that's one of the things, especially like with therapists, like there are certain lines where even if it's a patient or a client and they say something like, I want to harm myself or harm another person, that's the point where you do have to step in and say, okay, well, we need to do something about that. Because if you let that go and they do harm themselves or they do harm another person, that's on you too, because you did nothing.
And that's kind of like what she was saying too. And I'm paraphrasing, but essentially she was saying like, you get this guy into the military, he gets in the military, you're basically training him to kill. Mm-hmm. You're training him how to use a weapon, whatever, if he didn't already know. You train him how, and then you determine and you find out while you're training him that there's something wrong with him. Mm-hmm. And then you just let him out and you just let him go. And you know that he's made claims and had thoughts and violent thoughts and all this stuff. And you don't tell the people. She's like, a heads up would have been nice.
That's like letting a rabid dog out into a neighborhood.
A heads up would have been nice. And then she actually went on a diatribe about how veterans should be treated better and all this stuff. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, she's right. She's got a great point. Mm-hmm. But it was just crazy hearing that like he had been making these claims or these thoughts known, and he just was let out.
It's awful.
And they never told the band, and they never knew anything.
Yeah,
it's just crazy. And then so he died in 2004, and then Vinnie Paul, the drummer from Pantera, died in 2018. Mm-hmm. So then, and I guess Vinnie Paul and Phil Anselmo, the singer of Pantera, mm-hmm. they never reconciled their differences. I don't know what their falling out was over. I have no idea. There's so many stories, so who knows what's true. But they're out touring now. They have Phil Anselmo is singing. Rex Brown, the original bassist, is playing bass. They have Zach Wilde from Black Label Society and Ozzy Osbourne's band. He's playing guitar, doing all the dime bag parts. And then they have Charlie Benante from Anthrax on drums. They sound great. I've watched some clips on YouTube and stuff. I've seen a couple of songs that they've played at different places. To me, they sound great, mm-hmm. but it's not Pantera.
Yeah.
Even though it's the singer.
Yeah.
The heart and soul of that band was the Abbott brothers.
And I will agree with you on that, because there are times, I think this is a great example where there is that collaboration. So like, let's go back to David Lee Roth.
Okay.
the Van Halen brothers left the band or something happened and he continued under Van Halen. Granted, those guys carried the name.
That's their name.
But let's say it wasn't their name, but it just wouldn't feel right.
Well, I mean, he when David Lee Roth went on and did his solo stuff, he got Billy Sheehan on bass. He had, I think it was Greg Bissonette on drums, and Steve Vai was his guitar player. He got like really super talented virtuosos in their instruments, musicians as his band. So he like almost like he was trying to recreate Van Halen because he got these awesome players. But I mean, he had a couple of hits, but
it's not Van Halen.
It's not the same thing.
But it's David Lee Roth. But, you know, going back to Pantera, I feel like there are some bands where if you have bands with major components in the band that are just so well known and loved, it does make it harder to, even if you have that singer, it just doesn't feel the same.
Kind of like Guns N' Roses
both
without Slash and without Duff and without those guys when it was just Axl. And it was like, who was it, Buckethead or something?
That's right.
Right?
Not the same.
Yeah, it's not the same thing. And so now where all the original members are out touring again, they're packing places again. I think they were doing okay before too, but now they're like really like selling out everywhere.
But isn't it funny how, for the most part, there are so many bands where if it's just the singer, they can have whoever and it's fine. But then there are other bands where if there are certain members not there, it's just not the same, even if it is the singer.
Like you have Megadeth. You go to see Megadeth, it doesn't matter it's Dave Mustaine. That's it. Because that band, he's had so many people. He's had, I don't know how many different drummers, how many different people he's had playing guitar. David Ellefson was the original bassist who left. Then he came back, and now he's gone again. So it's like he is Megadeth. So if you're going to see Megadeth, you're going to see Dave Mustaine and whoever he's got playing with him. Like all the guys he has, they're competent musicians. You kind of have to be to play that music because it's intense. It's complicated.
It's not basic.
It's no, not at all. He's got like very complicated guitar parts and compositions and stuff. But you're going to see Dave Mustaine. That's what you're going to see. I've still never seen Megadeth live. I've always wanted to. I've never seen them. Or Dave, I should say. I haven't seen Dave live yet.
Yeah.
But but you're right. It's like that singer, for the most part, he's the guy. He's like the focal point. So it's very rare where you get that. Like, could you imagine Huey Lewis in the News without Huey Lewis?
Oh gosh, no.
You know what I mean? Like,
and again, I feel like Huey Lewis in the News, like growing up and listening to them, it all worked together. Yeah. But again, Huey was the voice.
Right. And I mean, like you could change out the drummer. You could probably get a different drummer and it probably wouldn't matter all that much unless it was somebody who was like, I don't know, like a focal point of the band, who was, you know, like a showy part of the band or a big part of the stage presence and whatever. I don't know. It's just, it's funny how those dynamics work.
It is.
I'm sure we're missing a bunch of it. I just realized we've been going almost an hour. and we weren't even planning on talking about this, but this is what happens sometimes on the show.
Yep. Next
show. I hope everybody enjoys. Now, like Def Leppard, right?
Oh yeah.
They it's all the original members minus the guitar player who passed away, and they've had to replace him. But like their drummer lost his arm. This is after they hit it big.
Yeah.
Their drummer loses his arm, and they kept him because they were just loyal. They could have easily. I mean, if there's ever a reason to get a different guy to step in, but they kept him.
And he still kicks ass.
And he still kicks ass. He kicks ass with one arm. They figured it out, and they did. Now that's loyalty. If you ask me, that's loyalty.
Awesome.
That's friendship. You know, like that's
just, it's really cool. And I remember watching videos of Def Leppard and being like, he's only got one arm and he's playing drums. Wow.
I didn't even know it at first because I remember one of the first videos I saw from them was Photograph, and he still had both arms then. So I remember seeing that video and be like, oh, this band's cool. I like them. They're all right. You know, whatever. I was never like huge into them until Hysteria came out. Then I really started to like Def Leppard. Then I really started to listen to Pyromania and the stuff from before. But yeah, it was like I didn't realize that the guy had only one arm. And then I'm like, because I remember I didn't hear about the accident or anything like that. Whatever, that had escaped me at the time. I remember the first time seeing him, I'm like, why is he drumming with one arm? Like, what's he doing? Why is his arm? Because you know how sometimes when you're a kid, you'd put your arm in your shirt, you'd be like, oh, look, I only have one, whatever, being silly and goofy as a kid. I'm like, why is he doing that? Like, what's that about? And it was just me watching it on my own and noticing it. And I remember having that thought, like, why is he drumming with his arm in his shirt? I didn't realize because he had one arm. Like, what? Yeah. He's got one arm. And then I remember seeing a thing like an MTV something or other and seeing him just sitting there with one arm and explaining his drum setup and how he does everything with the foot pedals and it's a lot of it's electronic now and all this. I'm like, what? And I remember just being blown away. But it's just that band. It's awesome because it's like,
and it's Def Leppard.
So. What loyalty though by those guys? Like I don't know their backstory. I never watched their behind the music. I really want to now. But what a backstory. They must have been like childhood friends or something if they're all still together like that. Like I know like what's it, U2? I think all those guys are childhood friends, and that's still all the original members from what I know. I'm not a huge U2 fan either. I don't really care that much, but I know, like, I'm just thinking of bands that are still all the original crew is all together.
Anything else before we wrap up?
I don't know. I'm sure there's probably other stuff that's going to come to mind after we hit stop.
Or let us know if we missed anybody.
Yeah, if we missed anybody, I'm sure we could.
Anyone who stands out to you.
We could definitely do another episode, something like this. Yeah. So, all right. Well, yeah, I guess this is a good. Not even going to bother. Not even going to bother getting into the other thing because I went so off topic. I apologize.
Okay. That's all right. We went off the rails, but that's okay. It
happens.
Hey, we can do what we want.
That's right.
I'm in full circle.
Well then, until next time. I am the Golden Greek Alex Arion, joined as always by my beautiful, lovely, gorgeous, amazing wife, Monique.
And you've been listening to the Homewrecker podcast.
We love hearing from and interacting with our hearers and watchers. Feel free to reach out to us on Twitter
at HomewreckerPod.
You can also visit our website,
homewreckerpodcast.com,
where you can check out past episodes and pick up some Homewrecker Podcast gear from our online store.
Also, if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe or follow button wherever you're hearing or watching our show. That way you can be notified whenever a new episode drops. We're on all major podcasting platforms, and you can check out the video versions of our show at YouTube and Brighteon.
You can also find Monique in a few places online as well.
I'm on Twitter @_MoniqueGiselle_. If you're interested in a tarot reading, organite, incense, candles, and other cool things, you can go to my website, tarotbymonique.com. Or if you're interested in hypnotherapy, you can go to innerstandingshypnosis.com to schedule a free 20-minute consult. And follow me on Twitter @MoniquePCHT. And Alex, how can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter @TheAlexArion, and you can check out my website, AlexArionFitness.com.
And if that's too much to remember, we get it. That's why we put it all in our show notes.
Thanks for spending your time with us, and we appreciate all of your support.
We do. Thank you. We love you. Many people are unaware just how much hypnotherapy can help them, or think it's only to help lose weight or quit smoking. But there is so much more hypnotherapy can do. It can help with stress, anxiety, insomnia, phobias, performance enhancement, connecting with your spirit guides and higher self. You can even discover past lives and your life between lives. Heal traumas, break habits, find your deepest truth, or just have fun discovering who you really are, all from the comfort of your home. I'm Monique Pliakis. I'm a certified hypnotherapist, and I want to help you. Schedule a free consult by going to www.innerstandingshypnosis.com. That's INNERSTANDINGSHYPNOSIS.com. Inner Standings Hypnosis. Find your power and ignite your inner light.